A Chinese man said Africans didn't learn from colonialism. Basically, we just went through years and years of torture and learned nothing. That's why we are where we are. Let's debunk that. Hello there, my name is Maaya. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Let's dive right in. Now, I came across a statement by a Chinese man. This is actually a video from X, formerly known as Twitter. And this Chinese man was saying Africans didn't learn from colonization. You know, at first it does feel like a sharp critic. Like, what do you mean Africans didn't learn from colonization? You know, especially considering the person it's coming from. Because, friend, it kind of looks like China is also trying to colonize this said African country that you're saying didn't learn from colonization. But you know what? I digress. Let's unpack that. I want you guys to watch this clip and then we jump right in.
刚才说是你们受欧洲国家管理这么长时间，应该是学到了很多先进的管理经验。
哪有多少时间？没有多少时间了。我们炒那个要那个国经济啊，很炒。现在是50年了。自己50年那个，
就是50年以前，你不是受他们
50年以前什么都好啊。
是啊，那个先进的影响，那个代代往传下来，越传越文明越发达了，怎么越来越倒退，越落后了？你看这么先进的铁路，我1930几年就有电气化铁路，我这中国啥时候才有电气化铁路的？你看矿区那个铁路，电气化那个双轨铁路，因为架得多好，你看现在顶上那个什么，哎呀，千疮百孔啊！ 破烂不堪了，把原有留下的东西根本都没有更加的爱护保护去利用它，反而都遭到了毁灭性的重创，就成了这样子的嘛。只有慢慢经过几代人，他就是中国说的那句话：“今人有酒今人醉，明人没酒喝凉水。”就是。 就这样子，在这个消费观念上头啊，中国人和他们这个刚果人，他们受比利时这个西方影响绝对不同。他们有钱没钱啊，该消费照消费，那潇洒的很。一发工资那几天特别潇洒。比利时人我没有直接接触到，当然我觉得接触他们这些人，因为他受比利时这个影响，应该是我想也是这样子的。 男的也是，你得有钱那几天狂得很着呢，过上几天就蔫了，就回来了，再没几天就开始给你借钱了。其实他们喝酒，让他们说喝酒，他喝不了多少，他就喜欢那个，喝酒吧里喝一喝，屁股扭一扭啊，那这扭屁股这真是一绝啊，这确实是一绝啊，身材好看。
You see how the black guy was distressed. He was shocked that this man was saying something like this. He actually looked far off into the air like, are you actually saying this? Did you just say that? Did you say that? He was in so much disbelief, and I kind of understand it. Now let's debunk what this man is saying. There are always two sides to a coin. Now, guys, his statement of "we didn't learn," he makes it seem like colonization was a school, right? He makes it seem like we went to study. He makes it seem like all that land that was being stolen, all the slaves that they were getting, all that manual labor that was underpaid, all the discrimination, like we didn't learn from anything like that, you know? It's like saying he's trying to make it seem like colonization was some type of tough love. You know, when a parent is trying to discipline a child and they hit the child, it's like, oh no, I'm hitting you because I love you and you must learn from this. It's like we didn't learn from the tough love that our colonizers brought forward. That the things that most African countries went through was a form of love by the colonizers. The inequality that people went through was a form of love, of tough love by the colonizers. And we Africans, This is what he's saying. If you're an African, you are ungrateful for not, you're very ungrateful because they came and they did ABCD and you didn't learn shit from ABCD. You didn't learn from school. That's what he's saying. But please educate me in the comment section. What exactly were we supposed to learn? What exactly were African countries supposed to learn when all the colonizers did was come and take and destroy and everything? Now, granted, they did some things. I mean, they built some infrastructure. Okay, and okay, they did that. And, you know, they did that. Well, good for them. Thank you. But that doesn't put away everything that Africans went through for colonization. If there is one thing that I will say Africans learn from colonization, is to be resilient and to have resistance, value, and self-determination. I don't think the issue is about learning. It's just how much the colonial legacy still shapes the day-to-day for most African country. I've said this in a previous episode and I'll say this again. Most of the things in Uganda are colonial based. I'm sorry. Our law is based on the British system. The way we calculate anything British, it's British. Our English is very much so British. That's why sometimes an American will say, oh, that's wrong English. It's not wrong English, friend. That is British English. It's what our colonizers taught us. And it's what people have been learning. The level of education for most African countries has been very much so colonized and very much so for the British colonies, very much so British wise. You understand? I do want you guys to watch this.
Between 1958 and 1961, in the name of giving us our independence as African countries, France forced the Francophone, and I hate that terminology. There is no such thing as Francophone, Anglophone. They made it up. But for the purposes of communication, I will use that. 14 of those countries, they said, in order for you to get your independence from us, you must sign this document. You thought they could have found a better name for the document. The document was called the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. We are talking about giving you independence, but sign this pact for the continuation of colonization in a different format. And I'm going to highlight some of those issues that they said you must agree to if you are going to be independent. Hello.
You've heard the lady there. I like how she's so passionate. I liked what she said about the continuation of colonization, because even if most African countries got their independence, they're very much so still colonized. It's just a pretty, they just slapped independence on something and it was just a pretty name for it. But if you look at everything that the colonizers left behind, it's still very much so being taken forward. It's still very much so being brought forward, right? Now let's talk about neocolonialism. When I go to Google and I tell Google, help me describe neocolonial. So it's the use of economic, political, cultural, or other pressures to control or influence other countries, especially for more dependencies. Let that pause in. Now, it's very interesting that this critique comes from a Chinese perspective. A country that is heavily involved in Africa. Friend, China it has set its seeds in Africa, it has set its foot in Africa, and it is here to stay. It is heavily involved in most African countries through loans for infrastructure, through trade, through so much more, through all these partnerships, through all these agreements. Now, it's funny that some may call it partnerships, but is it a partnership? Or it's another form of colonialism? When this Chinese man says Africans didn't learn from colonization, I feel like it's more of like a projection, because in one way or another, so when this African man, says that statement, that brave statement, when he said it came from his heart and he was so strong in it, he said, when he said Africans didn't learn from colonialism, I feel like it could be projection, because China has its map all over Africa. It has its foot on the neck. You know that statement, foot on the neck. Like don't let our pressure, like keep going, something like that. China is heavily involved in everything that could be here. I feel like it's a deflection from China's involvement in also trying to exploit African resources, African labor. When they come to these African countries, they come with their top guys, but the rest of the employees be African. Now, let me know, is that not similar to what was happening before during colonization, during the scramble for Africa, when came and took over and started naming random things like they didn't have their names before that? Yeah, they had African people working for them. So yeah, very much so projection. Watch this.
The Neocolonial project creates another group of individuals. Historians and political scientists have described them in these borrowed French terms, comprador bourgeoisie. These are people who are still doing the bidding of the colonizer. In the former French colonies, they even have a pact which says, we have gone, but we have not gone. We'll still remain in many ways. We'll have our armies in your countries. We'll print your currency. We'll do many things. Even your universities will be connected to us. Your curriculum will be our own. Even in former British colonies, they still retain the armies. Their universities are connected to their own. And that is what one sees even today.
You had the main man right there, Mr. Professor Lumumba. They never left. There's always some form of colonialism happening on the ground. There's always someone who just said, let's continue with this system. He has mentioned it. The universities are connected, the armies are connected, the currency is connected. It's all still connected to the colonial powers. It is. Let's just say this. Learning from colonization doesn't mean repeating its methods or like mimicking what they did. I feel like when you say learning from colonialism, it's understanding its impact and reclaiming what it is that they took from us. It can be our culture, it can be our land, it can be our way of life, it can be our community, it can be how we used to do things, and building systems that reflect that. Building systems that are trying to help us kind of like wash off all the colonial powers, all the colonial system. Africa's story isn't one of failure. I wouldn't say that. Colonialism happened, but I feel like it's one of resilience. That yes, it happened, the bad, the good, it happened, but Africa is trying its best and it's come out and done something for itself. Obviously, Africa is not a country, the continent, okay? It's doing something for itself. So I feel like we just need to urge each other on and move forward. We need to build a future for our children, where they're not looking back and they're thinking, oh, where did you learn this from? Oh, they told colonialism. Oh, what's the origin of this? Colonialism. What's the origin of that? Colonialism. No, we need to build a future where external powers don't have a play in how, our future great grandkids live their lives. Yes, I do believe so. Please do watch this clip.
The man who has led this new nation to independence, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Prime Minister of Ghana. After he had visited your country, John Gunther, the American writer, said that he thought Ghana had one of the greatest opportunities in the history of mankind. Now, would you agree with that?
I do, because this is an opportunity for the African to demonstrate to the world that the African, given the chance, can manage his own affairs.
And can you live up to this chance, do you think?
I think we are prepared to live up to this opportunity. We have had 5 years of what we call internal self-government. And now we are going into a period of complete independence and sovereignty. And with the experience we have had, I'm quite sure that we shall be able to live up to this opportunity.
From the man himself, Mr. Kwame Nkrumah, I feel like that's a very strong message right there, and it's a perfect way to end this episode. It's a good way to close this off. we at the end of the day, guys, we need to look out for each other. That's all we need to do. I do have a challenge for you guys. When someone says Africans didn't learn from colonization, I want you to ask them back. I want you to argue back. Have colonizers learned from this? What have the colonizers learned? If we are to learn from this, what have they learned? Have they learned that exploitation is not sustainable? Have they learned that what they did is wrong? Have they learned that that was so evil? Have they learned that that was unjust, unfair, and equal, and everything that's there? You know, have they learned from that, or are they finding ways to still insert themselves in African affairs? That's the challenge for this episode. And with that, I close this one out. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like I say, I am a student of life, so let me know what you think in the comment section. And if you've watched this episode to the end, drop me a 1. Whoever drops a 1 gets a reward. I'll let you know in the comment section. So yeah, if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. We are on the road to 10K. That's very exciting. Do subscribe. And yeah, my merch is popping up on the screen right here. Please buy the merch. Amazing shirts, amazing quality. I love that for me, and I love that for you who receive it. And yeah, follow me on all my social media platforms at Jonita Maaya, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.